This shit should be on.
It is. 10 seconds in. It's just switching. They go to double shot.
Ty, what up? Ty, what up?
Ty, what up, Kane?
Who's this? Ty to TJ. I gotta learn how to do this. Like from here.
Control it, like
switching
around and stuff.
Yep. Ty, go down. See, you can see comments here, but I don't know how to.
Hey, Tiger, what's going on?
Do this. Nephew, TJ. Okay, what up, boy? I'm Eddie. What down?
Time to go, people. Appreciate y'all for jumping in. We about to get started with this week's edition of I Said What I Said. Each and every Friday we get together. 773.
Wait a minute. This is gonna be good.
We each and every Friday we get together about this time and discuss some of the current issues of Black America, how they affect us here locally and nationally. And we have a discussion with y'all. We like to be a very interactive discussion. So please, by all means, feel free to add your comments and your perspective to the conversation. We want it to be a very interactive conversation. We'll read through your comments as we go as well. Thank you all so very much. If you would kindly take a second to share it. We want to expand this conversation to have as many people involved in it as possible. We talk through a lot of important issues, but we do not pretend to have all of the answers. That's why we have these discussions with you all back and forth. So your input is critically important to the discussion. And again, we want to grow this conversation as much as possible to try and have as great an impact as possible. So please, if you would, take a moment to share the live feed. What's up, Emerald Green, like a block off. But yeah, this is I Said What I Said. His name is Tucson Warner. My name is Herb Howard. Thank y'all so very much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate it. Good afternoon, Nicole. What is wrong with Emerald Green?
Tonight's Victims Real Chance. What y'all got a game tonight or something?
Every Friday, bro, she starts woofing about whooping somebody on spades. Woman ain't beat me in spades since I met her.
Let's get to it.
Let's get into it. If you just jumped in, thank y'all so much. This is I Said What I Said. Tucson Warner, Herb Howard. A few things we're going to talk about today. Let's go through the rundown real quick. Lakeith Stansfield, actor from Get Out, speaks out against the black media. He calls the Shade Room, the Breakfast Club, and other black media outlets, saying they are anti-black for the things that they put out, the content they discuss, the messages that they spread. I think that there is a lot of validity to the conversation. Obviously, it was not well received by members of those outlets. Charlamagne the God and others were quite upset about it. However, they didn't respond. I haven't heard a valid response to his claims, which, again, I think have some validity to them. We'll talk about that as we go. Comcast, Byron Allen is still in the middle of his lawsuit. Why Byron Allen and black people will, in all likelihood, lose this case. We are going to talk about that as well. Mayor Lori Lightfoot here in Chicago, she outs Chicago black pastors for accepting $54 million to lobby against rideshare taxes. What does that mean? What does it mean for this overall culture of poverty pimping that we tend to see a great deal in our community, be it from clergymen, elected officials, or other people who are, for whatever reason, looked at as leaders in our community? What does that poverty pimping look like? What's that conversation? What does that mean? And last but certainly not least, in light of the fact that Colin Kaepernick will have a workout for NFL teams down in Atlanta tomorrow, is it time that we reconsider our stance on Jay-Z's partnership with the NFL? When he first announced his partnership with the NFL, it was met with a lot of backlash from the black community. He was, for lack of a better term, he was called a coon and a sellout and this and that. And my personal stance on it was, let's just wait and see. And I think that we're starting to see some positive things happen as a result of that. I know a lot of you all felt differently. I know two feels differently, so we will certainly get into that conversation as well. So those are the 4 things we're going to be talking about here over the next hour or so. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. And again, please feel free to take part in the conversation. We do not do this every week just for me and Tucson to have a conversation. We talk all the time. We could do this anywhere. We do it here so that we can talk with you guys as well. Two, how you feeling, brother?
I'm blessed and highly favored, man.
Good. Glad to hear it, man. You was out in LA?
Yeah, man.
Out in Cali this week?
Yeah, I got some stuff happening out there. I'm not gonna talk about it though because I don't want to, jinx it.
I know what's to it, but
yeah, it was a good time, man. Got some time to see my family that's out there. Made some business moves out there. Enjoyed the good weather out there. You know what I mean? Faced some of my fears out there. You know what I mean? I was telling, I think the last moment of that time we went to Seattle and Portland, and it was a family trip. And there was a moment in Portland, man, where we got we jumped on we climbed a mountain.
Sure.
And I didn't even know that I had this fear.
Climbed, crawled, whatever, you know.
Well, hiked the mountain. Hiked,
right? Crawled, who's counting, you know.
So I did, you know, my kids saw the mountain, was like, man, Dad, let's do it. So I'm all right, let's do it.
Right.
And again, like I said, I didn't recognize I had this fear. So I got halfway up that joint, and I was like, oh, this is some bullshit. This is some bullshit. My whole body started shutting down. Like, legitimately.
Oh, no,
you know what I mean?
the term of being paralyzed with fear is very real.
No, it's real. It's very real. Like, this is some real bullshit. You know, my kids laughing at me. It was ridiculous, dog. It was very disrespectful.
Y'all haven't seen this. I don't know if he posted it on Facebook, but he did post it on his Instagram page. Tucson is crawling up the mountain because his body won't allow him to stand up and walk it. So he's just crawling up the mountain on this particular thing. But this time out in LA, you actually...
Yeah, so out in LA, man, my cousin was like, man, let's go work out tomorrow. We're going to go hike the mountain. I'm like, man, fuck that mountain. But I was like, no, you know what, man up, right? And face your fears. So I thought I could do it. So, and I ain't gonna lie, I thought the pathway would have been a little bit different, right? I thought it would have been more through the middle and through instead of on the edges.
Sure.
And that was some bullshit. It was kind of on the edges, right? So I went and did it, and it was like tiered. So in Portland, it was like just straight up, right? Mm-hmm. But in Cali is Runyon Canyon, and it's something they do all the time. This is like cultural for them, right? So you got people running just damn right with dogs and shit, right? So I get to the first tier, and it's high as hell. Mm-hmm. The first tier is still high as hell. And I'm like, all right, this is bullshit.
Legs start shutting down.
But I got there, right? I man never got there. Then we had to stop going up to the second tier. And like halfway through the second tier, this little route, it ain't shit no more. It's like 2-3 feet at best. You know what I mean? Man, I was like, I looked back, and I was like, nah, this can't work. This ain't gonna work. I can't make it. I'm not gonna make it. So now, I was supposed to make a decision.
I wish I could have seen it.
So the only option I had was go back the way I came, which I would have had to look down, face forward.
Sure.
Or make it all the way over, and there was a paved road on the other side, man. So I had to go on and man up, face my fears. I had to make it to the other side because I couldn't bear walking down that joint. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm proud of you, brother. Congratulations.
I do what I do.
For making it up and down the mountain.
I do what I do. You know what I'm saying? Was that in Baldwin Hills? I don't know. I don't know where Baldwin Hills is. I don't know LA like that, man. You know, I've been a few times, but I don't know the areas like that.
Well, let's go ahead and hop into it, man. Let's go ahead and start with these two topics that are similarly related in terms of black or media in general and what it means for black people. Let's get started with let's do Lakeith Stanfield first. Lakeith Stanfield is an actor. He's a guy from Get Out. He also plays on that show Atlanta. A bit of a strange cat, you know, just kind of marches to the beat of his own drum, which is perfectly fine. But he is a bit of a different dude. But he came out and he said that I should have actually wrote the entire quote down. I did not.
Well, he said media outlets like the Shade Room, Breakfast Club, World Star, and a few others, etc., are anti-black.
Yeah.
And Charlamagne responded to him,
but not really.
Well, he did what white people do, right? Instead of dealing with the question, he kind of responded to his character. He attacked his character. And I think, regardless of Lakeith Stanfield's character, regardless of his idiosyncrasies, I think he has a point.
Truth is the truth.
And I'm saying this as a fan of the Breakfast Club. The other things I don't really get into, right?
Yeah.
But the Breakfast Club has become a medium in which, really, in a lot of ways, and this is kind of sad, that black news travels, right? So in a lot of times, I look at it from several different standpoints. One, for entertainment, but secondly, because that is where most of us are receiving our information about the world. And for me to be in a position I'm in, trying to have the conversations I'm having, I want to be able to respond to that, you know, or retort those arguments.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the measure for where black news should come from at all.
Sure.
I think it should be what it is, entertainment. But that is what black media has been reduced to, which kind of goes into that Comcast conversation.
It does.
In a lot of ways,
Ties
right?
directly into it.
But
And the frequency at which we tuned into, which is another thing you speak about all the time.
absolutely, right? But I was watching it the other day, man, and they was talking about, they had Andrew Yang on there, the presidential candidate. And he's talking about his freedom dividend, the conversation where he wants to give $1,000 to every family or to every person over 18 years old in America if he's elected, right? I like Andrew Yang. I'm not going to lie. I really fuck with dude. Because he's progressively thinking in a way that most politicians don't think. And he's not a career politician. He's an entrepreneur in those spaces. So he understands how we kind of in the age of automation, which I often talk about. Like, that's going to leave us paralyzed as a community for sure, right? As a country, but as a community, we don't play in the tech space at all, right?
No.
So when those robots take over,
Go out to Silicon, you go out to San Francisco, we ain't in those spaces.
right? But when those robots take over those menial jobs, those are the jobs that kind of uphold our communities.
Yeah.
So what happens in those spaces? Now, I only bring this to the conversation because he's having this conversation with the Breakfast Club, right? And their response was, "Well, what you got for black people?" And he looked like, "What the fuck is you talking? I just told you."
Right.
And he was like, "No, you got to have something specific to black people. What you think about education? How can we, retrain these jobs or retrain these media jobs to have opportunity to work in the space?"
Sure.
It twofold.
Sure.
One, it speaks to our level of greed and how we put money over humanity.
Always.
Right? But secondly, it's like cognitively they don't understand the conversation. And because they're in a position where they have the voice and they don't have the intellect, they kind of spew off messages that are really
Detrimental to
our community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So instead of dealing with the freedom dividend, they took this shit to another place. And they was like, "Well, no, that ain't gonna work. You need one-liners for black people." Basically saying we're ignorant. Right? You need some one-liners and you need some good jokes for Trump. You need to be able to call him names. And that shit just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of the shit they do rubs me the wrong way, but again, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. It's entertainment for me.
Sure.
And it's opportunity to be a rebuttals to these kind of conversations.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I think that, it's irresponsible to put such a burden on an entertainment source, right? To expect them to be, at the forefront of, spreading positive messages or true messages. And, their purpose is to be entertaining. They want as many people to utilize their platform as possible. And they, it's an entertainment source. It's not a news source. It's not. Now, I would say this, though, just before I get into, how much I actually agree with what Lakeith Stansfield had to say, I kind of want to play a little bit of devil's advocate, or not even so much that, but just to say what comes first. It's the chicken or the egg thing, right? Like do we blame those media outlets, Breakfast Club, Shade Room, and the like? Do we blame those outlets for the messages that they put out, or do they put out those messages because that's what we want to see? That is what we want to hear, right? They put out these videos and instantly 1 million people done seen it, right? And is that on them, or is that on the consumer for what it is that we find interesting? Because there's plenty of platforms out there that talk about real shit, address real issues in a real way, that's thoughtful and informed and detailed. But they don't do the numbers like of a Shade Room, of a Breakfast Club, right? Like that's not the frequency that we are tuned into as a whole. And so, what comes first? Is it to blame them for the frequency that we own and for the information that we digest, or is it our fault and then they just giving the people what they need, right? Is it the drug dealer's fault or is it the drug addict's fault? You know what I mean?
I think a lot of times we underestimate the power of groupthink, right? So when I was very, very young, my first entrepreneurial hustle was making clothes.
I'll tell you what I know about Duval Patrick in a minute, Patrice.
My first entrepreneurial hustle was designing clothes, right? I've always had this creative side, but I was always afraid of art. So I was trying to figure out a way to make art to sell to a population that don't buy art, right? So that drove me to making clothes, t-shirts, jerseys, sweatshirts. And this was at a time when that shit wasn't common, when everybody couldn't do it, right? And what that did was it drove me to a lot of trade shows, right? And I remember one time I was in Atlanta, and they had this trade show called the Atlanta Mart, right? Now, mind you, this shit is an expensive hustle, right? To play at the level I was trying to play at.
Yeah.
So I had to pay for the space, I had to pay for my booth, I had to pay for shipping, I had to pay for travel. This cost me a few $1,000s to get there, and I'm a very young dude, right? So I'm balling on a budget, like I'm on there on a shoestring budget, just getting there, right? And I get there, and I set up my booth, and I'm recognizing all the buyers going through the hall, right? And all of the buyers were Asian, Jewish, and Arab, right? And they were all there to buy old urban clothing, right? And I was having the hardest time in my life to get them to come into my booth. Just to add some perspective, again, I'm a creative, right? So we all kind of know Leaders clothing in Chicago.
Sure.
So this brand I had predated Leaders, but it kind of resembled Leaders style. So it didn't fit in at the time. Mind you, Carl Kanai is out still. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm in there and I'm losing. I'm not making no fucking money, right? But the dude next to me is making money hand over fist. And the dude next to me just happens to be the dude who made the alligator skin Air Force Ones that used to be in the back of the stores. Now nobody in our community ever wore that shit, right? But what that dude understood was that the buyers who really make the decisions, they don't know what our community does.
No, they're getting their information from a few of these sources.
The Source magazine.
Right.
So they look in the back of that shit and they say, well, this ad is in here every week. This must be what black people like.
Right.
So he made something like $500,000 that week, right? Man, I got to a point where I had to drag people in my booth just to make my money to get back to the crib, right? And from that point forth, I stopped doing that, right? Because I realized in that moment that I wasn't in a position to define my culture. You know what I'm saying?
And that's us, right?
Right? So it speaks to, like, we think we're making these conscious choices, but really we're not. This is what's provided to you, and you're going to pick from what's provided. Not from the wealth of what's out here, but what's immediately available, right? Groupthink is real.
No, it is. And it controls everything. Like, it's perspective is reality, right? And so if the perspective is that's what black people like, then whether that's true or not, you can say that is the reality of the situation, right? Whether you can walk through the neighborhood and see people wearing that shit or not, if that is the perception, if that's the perception, then that can also be deemed reality. That's just how it goes. And so when you look at what Lakeith Stansfield is saying about Breakfast Club, Shade Room, and the like, the perception that y'all put out about black people is not a positive one. The images that they put out more often than not are not positive. They do not paint black people in the best light. And so when he comes out and says, then that's anti-black, and then you hear somebody say it's anti-black and it's a black show and they got black hosts and they all like, they claim like, how we anti-black? Well, the shit y'all put out is detrimental to the black community. And so that makes it anti-black. And in Charlamagne's response, he didn't want to address the actual issue. You want to talk about how crazy this man is and all the weird stuff that he's into, and he like I said earlier, he marches to the beat of his own drum. He is a different cat, no doubt. But that doesn't take away from what he said. What he said was absolutely true. Y'all going to continue to spread these messages of negativity and images of negativity. It's detrimental to our cause. That is anti-black. I don't disagree with him at all. And I think that listen, I think that the Shade Room, Breakfast Place need to own it and say, hey, listen, we aren't here to educate in any real way. We aren't here to spread any information in any real way. We don't take the responsibility of the entire black culture on our shoulder. We just here to entertain. And so if motherfuckers want to watch Kodak Black in a ski mask say stupid shit, then that's what we're gonna put out. And If they say, I mean, that's fine. That is their right. That is their right. But again, I think it's also on the general public to digest that shit.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm rocking with Lakeith on that.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So, Rick, what up? Shanita, what up? Jamila, Paige, what up? Queen Jana, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it, but she has question mark, question mark, question mark. I don't know what that's in regards to, but if you want to make a statement in what that's in regards to, we will answer it. Nikki Parks, what up? Vic, what up?
The Deval Patrick dude, Catrice asked about him earlier. He's a Southside native. He was born on the South Side. Didn't live here a whole long. I think he was gone by like he was like 8 or something like that. But he is a close friend and supporter of President Obama. And he initially had said that he wasn't going to throw his head into the ring for the 2020 presidential race. Now he's saying, I think I will. And met with a lot of Democratic leaders and funders to see if he had any viability in the race. And so he's thrown his hat into the ring. He was the first black governor of Massachusetts. And I don't know a whole lot about his policies, but I imagine, his record will come into focus over the coming weeks and months as he remains in the race. And we'll see. We'll see. I don't know. What?
I think we should go right to that Comcast based on that.
It is time to go to Comcast.
So most of us already know that Byron Allen is well, not even really Byron Allen, but Comcast has a suit that they brought forth against the American government to try to delete the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Right? Now this is twofold, right? One, I'm glad that this is becoming a popularized conversation. Mm-hmm. But if you remember correctly, I think the first time I started talking about this was probably like 6 months ago.
Hey, Cynthia, what's going on?
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
We had a conversation of it, I think it was at VON when I first started talking about this.
We were.
So I wanted to acknowledge that in the sense that, because who really brought this conversation to the forefront was the people who created the ADOS movement. Mm-hmm. And that was a woman named Yvette Cornell and Antonio Moore. Mm-hmm. Right? They were talking about it before me. I thought it was intriguing. I started doing the research. Mm-hmm. One reason why that's important is because just like we had the Breakfast Club conversation again, these are internet YouTube personalities. Yeah. And they've already dictated the political landscape for black people in America for the presidential race of 2020 from their living room. Yeah. So that speaks to the power of people, and I support the fuck out of that. Yeah. Right? But secondly, because it's on everybody's mind now, we're all talking about it, but I don't think we understand the depths of it, right? Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, the Civil Rights Bill of 1866 was the first push toward anything resembling black reparations, right? You got to think this was before constitutional amendments 13, 14, 15, right? So, and it was actually as a response to the Dred Scott case, right? Mm-hmm. And in the Dred Scott case, one of the arguments is, and this is out of the Dred Scott case came the concepts of states' rights versus federal rights, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why this becomes interesting in this moment, right? If you think about the Trump candidacy or even the Barack candidacy in a global scope, right? And the push and how they're leveraging really marketing to dictate mind, thought, and behavior, right?
Like everybody else.
There's a video on Netflix, and a movie on Netflix, and it talks. I can't remember the name of the shit, but it's about how they harness data, right? And how they leverage data to move crowds toward what they want them to do, which essentially created the Brexit concept in Europe, where Britain wanted to break away from the European Union. I think that this Comcast deal is the first step in that movement to dissolve America.
Really?
I do. And if you do some more, if you dig deep enough, think about it, man. And that's why I said, because you said you don't know nothing about Deval Patrick's policies, right? A lot of times, I've noticed this over the last couple of years, that the conversation of racism isn't harnessed in race anymore. It's harnessed in red or blue. It's harnessed in Republican or Democrat.
Which is foolishness.
Right? But that's just not reality.
No.
Right? But we harness those conversations in what party you align with instead of the reality of what white supremacy really is. Right? So when you think about the election of Barack Obama specifically, right, it creates this national divide where the white supremacists show themselves. you get Trump out of that because the white supremacists say, hey, we ain't with this bullshit.
Right.
We got to get our shit back.
Right.
Right? So now we get Trump. Trump is electing judges left and right. Right? So in a lot of ways, man, the court is the last stronghold of white supremacy. Just from a population standpoint, right? Children under 5 years old right now, white people will no longer be the majority in this country. Now, we think about the Civil Rights Act of 1866 just as some black shit, right? But it really harnesses everyone outside of white in there. You know what I mean? So they have to prepare themselves against this demographic shift.
I don't think that we've ever taken the power of mass media seriously. I don't think we've ever given it its true just due in terms of how influential it is, how critically important it is. The FCC is, first of all, it's an appointed position, right? Nobody's elected to the board for the FCC, none of that, right? It is completely appointed, and it is outside of the scope of government, right? They are not controlled by government, so they get to say exactly what can and cannot be said on TV, on radio, and that is all powerful because that is how all information gets disseminated through the people. Now we live in a different age now where you got social media and you can get messages out in different ways, but by and large, it's still through those major forms of mass media, and they control it. They control it like with an iron fist about exactly what you can say, exactly what you cannot say, and that's a level of power that I don't think we've ever really dealt with in a real way. Anytime there's a war, one of the very first things that the opposing side of a war wants to do is cut off the other side's communication.
Or create propaganda to support what the fuck they doing.
Exactly. Right. You got to spread your message and cut off their messages. And when you look at that, when you extrapolate that out over 200-300 year period for an entire country, you can do a lot of shit.
But to that point, right? So we said spread propaganda, create propaganda, right? And this goes back to the conversation I said last week where politics has to start becoming a vocation, right? So in order to move the way Comcast has been moving, because Byron Allen filed suit, and it was just a Byron Allen versus Comcast lawsuit.
Right.
Comcast is making this push to make this shit a national issue, right?
Because they want to flip the whole thing.
Yeah, they went to Donald Trump's DOJ and got them to sign the amicus brief, right? But check game. In doing that, they got black leadership to sign a MOU, a memorandum of understanding. Now, what they do is, and this shit goes into this bullshit Jay-Z conversation you want to have, right? This is what corporate entities do, right? What they do is they go find that black figurehead and say tap dance for these niggas so they fall in line with what we want to do. So Al Sharpton becomes the motherfucking turncoat that says, hey man, we fucking with Comcast.
Right.
Fuck dude.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Which is wild as hell.
But it's how the game works, right? So what Al Sharpton to go do is he'll go volley Magic Johnson. And he'll go volley Puffy, and you'll get Aspire TV, and you'll get Revolt TV out of this Comcast deal. And Comcast is still pulling all the fucking strings.
Sure, of
course. They're gonna cheat the shit out of Puffy
and
Magic, right? And to the Breakfast Club conversation too. Not knocking Puffy nor Magic, but what are they gonna feed you? They're gonna feed you junk food, right? They're not gonna feed you nothing that's gonna stick to your soul. So it's just more game playing. And because we're not tuned into a higher frequency, we fall in line with the stupid shit, right? But I know you want to go to this cap conversation in regards to
we can get to that later. But I mean, we can hop right into whatever. But I think that that's the chicken and the egg thing, bro. I don't like as much as I think it's disgusting, right? That's the message that they put out, and that's what people are tuned into. But if that is what people are tuned into, what are they supposed to put out? You know what I'm saying? If their purpose is to grow their following and get as many people to tune into their platforms as possible, and that's the bullshit people want to see.
Well, so and hear me too, though, right?
Sure.
I'm not judging Magic. I'm not judging Puff,
right?
But I am going to judge Al Sharpton. And I'm going to judge Al Sharpton because he should be held to a higher standard because his brand is contingent on being a fighter for people. right? So if that's your fucking brand and we're gonna stand true to that, then your reality can't be I'm a really a con man for the capital, right?
Poverty pimps, bro.
I'm not disagreeing with that, right? But there lies the problem. Humanity never supersedes capital in this country. So even to the point of Jay-Z, right? When people be like, we gotta fuck with Jay-Z because he's done so much for the community. Nigga, the boy's first album say he shot his brother because of money. Why do you think he loves you more than he loves his brother? And I'm a Jay fan, but I can see him for what he is, right? Al Sharpton, present yourself as who you are. If you here for the money, be here for the money. And us as a people, we should excavate his ass. And anyone like him, right? Present yourself as who you are. I can respect Jay as being a capitalist. I can respect Puffy as being a capitalist. I cannot respect you as being a con man. Show your hand, fam, or move the fuck out the way.
I think that we see it a lot, man. We see it a lot with these poverty pimps, whether it's these clergymen or, again, elected officials or whatever form of leadership that, you know, has been pressed upon them or whatever role they assume themselves to have in our community. They leverage that for their own financial gain. And it's nothing but poverty pimping. We see it here on the local level in Chicago with many, many different public figures and people in positions of leadership around the city. And you see it nationally as well. There are just going to be people who are going to leverage the plight of black people and their position in the black community for their own financial gain. And unfortunately, I don't see that stopping. Now, when you
why does that work?
Why does it work? Because these are people who have been placed on a pedestal, on a level that most people in our community would aspire to be at, right?
There's the key word I wanted you to get to. Aspiration, right? And what is our aspirations attached to? Our aspirations. When we start talking about frequencies, what are our aspirations as people?
It's the bag.
What does success mean?
How much money you got?
That's it.
That's it.
Right? And because they can dangle that over our head, and that's the only definition we have of success. Being articulate, being educated, being an intellect, that don't have no value in our community.
Yeah.
Being a good parent, that don't really have no value in our community. We define success by what you have.
Yeah.
Materialism.
Yeah. And
right?
when they have significantly more than anybody else in the black community, you talk about a Jay-Z, whether he's, you know, hundreds of millions in or whether he's hit the billion mark, whatever, he has significantly much more than any people in the black community. But he doesn't have anywhere near the money of the people who are pulling the strings above him, right? And so it's pennies in the bucket for them to say, okay, yeah, we'll throw you 50 million, we'll throw you 100 million, you go spread our message to the masses, right? And that it works because we see them as successful, and so whatever they say, whatever they put out, we're like, oh yeah, let's tune into that. Let's see what was to that, and without ever seeing the bigger picture for who's pulling that strings and for what purpose. And I think that that is why it works. But when I look at Jay-Z and I see somebody who has been honest about, you know, who he is and how he came up and how he got his fortune off, you know, drugs and in the streets and all of that, right? And then he put it into music and clothes and whatever else. But he has used some of that for good, whether that's, you know, any number of things that you see him praised for. Before the NFL partnership was announced with Jay-Z, there was all sorts of posts all over social media about how much good Jay-Z does and how he got this person out of prison, how he put this person in school, how he set this person up with that, how he did this, that, and the third. And that's fine, right? And it was all commendable, and people were patting him on the back and saying that's great. And he had built up this equity of trust in the black community. And it was really interesting to me to see how that trust could be taken away so quickly as soon as that NFL deal was announced. Now, to me, if you trust somebody, you trust them, and it's not just to trust them when you know what they're doing or when you see what they're doing or even when you agree with what they're doing. If you trust them, then you trust them even when you don't know exactly what they're doing or exactly what their plan is. And so for me, when it was out, my stance was, hey, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Jay is on right now. Like, yeah, we all in a bad space with the NFL. We all like, fuck them. But I don't know what he's on. Like, I don't know that he's just selling out to pad his own pockets. I don't know that he's not going to try to do something good. And so I said, I'm just going to reserve my judgment to say, listen, He's built up some equity with me. If I trust him, I'm going to give him time to see exactly what he's doing. And to me, when I start to see things like hip hop artists on these major platforms for the National Football League, which you hadn't seen, Meek Mill did the NFL 100-year kickoff concert in Grant Park in Chicago on the kickoff night. Like Meek Mill. And ordinarily that would have been, I don't fucking know, Shania Twain or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Like it's you starting to see some benefits from it. You hear the NFL commercial that plays on the TV all the time during the football games is Jadakiss rapping, like giving people opportunities that otherwise would not have they would not have had. And then now we saw the money that the NFL put out into the community, some of which made it into Chicago, albeit into the wrong hands, albeit done improperly, but it was still money that came down that had never come down from the NFL before. Now, hopefully they get better with that process in terms of who gets it and how. That's another conversation. But the money did come down from a place that has never come down before Jay-Z got into that partnership and made its way to the south side of Chicago, west side of Chicago. And then now you see Colin Kaepernick, who's been blackballed out of the NFL for 3 years merely for protesting to raise awareness about police brutality and mistreatment of black people all across this country. And him being blackballed for 3 years, but now all of a sudden he's going to get a workout down in Atlanta. All 32 NFL teams are invited. Many of them have committed to go, though not the Bears, which I don't understand, but that's another conversation as well. I think that is another thing that I'm willing to say, well, maybe Jay is doing some good in there. Maybe Jay is effectively using his seat at the table to bring about some good. And I think that it may be time that people like you say, you know what, Ho? My bad, bro. I should have gave you the benefit of the doubt. Because I'm starting to see a lot of good come from his partnership with the NFL. So you go ahead and apologize. Go ahead.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Go ahead, man.
I fuck with Jay as a rapper.
Go ahead.
And he's an awesome rapper.
Go ahead.
He's just a rapper, right?
Just apologize.
I want to read some of these comments.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Let's get to it.
Patah says, they save Negroes, call it what it is. Yeah, they save Negroes. I agree. Catrice says, we define success that way because we see that as a way to be free of white supremacy. The aspiration literally soothes our souls, but that's not the real reality. I don't know if we see it as a way to be free from white supremacy or a way to align ourselves with white supremacy, right? Because think about how we look at money, right? We don't look at money as a tool. We don't look at money to build. We look at money to stun on other niggas.
Oh yeah, it's the end game for us,
right? But even again, it's not a tool to build. It's look what I got.
Yeah,
you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm the king of this pond.
Yeah,
right. You can't stun on white people because you ain't got what they got. Even at your height, you don't got what they got.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I hear that, but I don't know if I agree with that. I think we look at money very differently. Our aspirations for having it is just attached to materialism.
No, but I think
it's just attached to aligning ourselves with the upper echelon.
I think that in a lot of ways people think they can buy back their freedom. I think that in a lot of ways people think that they can, buy their liberation and say, look at the money I will
question. Is it buy their freedom or is it buy their whiteness? And I'm saying this in this way because freedom gives you what? The ability to be free.
And so
right?
does whiteness.
Well, listen.
One and the same.
But listen. When we get there, we align ourselves with more whiteness. Right? When we get money, we go to the white neighborhood.
Yeah.
We send our kids to the white school.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So is it really freedom?
It's the same thing. You ever seen white people walking around?
They move differently, man.
Ain't worried about shit.
They move differently.
They walk out in the street and cars coming. They so damn comfortable. They so at peace. They just just doing their own damn thing. And that's freedom. And so we like, hey, well, if I can get on that level, then I must be free now.
Patrice says we should trust until they show us that we can't. Tiger said Bon Jovi when you was talking about the concert.
Exactly.
Queen Jana said agreed, and I don't know what that is too in regards to.
I don't believe that Jay did that.
Us at Jay's level understand the nature of the beast and move accordingly. I don't understand it. Do you?
I think that he's saying that we got to understand what he is and treat him accordingly as such, and not be misguided or so caught up in it.
So here's my rebuttal to that long drawn out bullshit you just put forth. right? Jay
I'm sorry.
is no different than Al Sharpton. No, he's not. Now here's the backlash, right? I got two backlashes. I got a backlash to Cap as well, right? I would so love for Cap to have a much bigger voice in this matter, not just the matter of Jay, but the matter of the whole protest that he's taking.
Qatar is such a brilliant brother,
right? So Cap is kind of taking the back seat in the protest. He's kind of let the world shape the vision of the protest instead of him being up front in the protest, right? Which gives you the leeway of defining his protest. You know what I mean? So it's funny how they compare Cap to Ali, and they just not the same. It ain't the same comparison.
No, it's not.
Ali was very vocal in what he meant, how he felt, and what he was doing.
No, yeah, it's not the same, but it's similar. It's relatable. You talk about present day versus Ali's time and what he was doing. I think it's relatable.
It's relatable in the sense that they both were reprimanded for taking a stand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Ali's stand was a communal stand, right? A communal stand that he got behind vocally, articulately, and intellectually. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Cap also took a community stand, but then he stood down, right? Going back to humanity over profits, right?
Yeah.
Cap sued the NFL, got a check. Nobody knows what the check was for. And his whole thing is to get back into the good graces of Mass's house.
Piss me off.
Let me get in Mass's house again.
Piss me off.
That bothers me. I would have been so happy if Cap would have been like, man, fuck y'all, try out.
Piss me off. What? Not even. Listen, man. Not even so much that I'm not mad at him for wanting to play football at the highest level. Like if that's something he's done all his life, if he loves the game, I love the game, and I don't play for no damn body, right? And so, if he loves the game that way and he wants to compete at the highest level, I get that part. What I don't like is how he went about settling his grievance with the NFL and having it be under the guise of a non-disclosure agreement where nobody can know what happened, nobody can actually know what they apologized for, what they admitted to. Were you actually blackballed? Now, obviously, anytime there's a settlement, there's an assumption of guilt, right? But the details don't come.
But I don't want us to get away from the point. Right? I'm going somewhere with this. That's my personal take on Cap. Right? Back to the Byron Allen Comcast push. Byron Allen is suing because of ownership. Right? Al Sharpton bought in because he can get licensing. Puffy bought in for licensing. Magic Johnson bought in for licensing. Those are the difference in those two men's mindsets. One is based in ownership. One is based in I just want to be a part of. Right? Yeah. And they're very different engines. Right? Jay is licensing Jay's brand. He don't own shit. I'm only saying this to say that
Duce and all the rest of it.
All that shit. Most of them cats are just licensing their brand,
Ciroc,
talking like they own as a product. Right? They're really just licensing their likeness.
And some rich motherfucker in the background.
Some real rich.
All too happy to let you go out there with
go
the
ahead and
bottles.
pretend this is yours, fam. Go ahead and pretend you're making a decision.
Yeah, make sure my bottles go $500 in every club across this country.
That's it, right? And we buy a hook, line, and sinker because of our aspiration and because of our lack. Right? Because we come from a state of impoverished mindset and we just want to feel value. Right? So that aspiration drives us to support them people at all costs. Now, I'm going to double down. Right? We go back to the King Montgomery bus boycott. Right? We count that as a successful move in history.
Yeah,
right?
I do.
But what would have been a much more successful move?
Starting our own bus company.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Now you're not dependent on that at all. And I'm not saying you could start a whole new NFL. I don't know. You possibly could.
I think you could.
The Negro Leagues lasted a whole long time.
I think you could.
But we praise Jackie Robinson for integrating.
Yeah.
While forgetting about the hundreds of thousands of niggas who was left jobless when he did that shit.
Did we forget about him or did we not really know? Right?
What you mean? Them Negroes went to the Negro League games every week. When Jackie Robinson immigrated, that whole league was gone.
But again, it's the power of mass media, right? Major League Baseball is what's in the newspaper and on the television and on the radios back then.
Acceptance into their definition of value.
Yeah.
Right? So again, he is no different then licensing his name just like Al Sharpton and signing that MOU. Specifically, and this is just on the personal level, because Cap has said this, or his people have said this, because they were in communication during Cap's whole demo, right? He was also in communication at that same time with Roger Goodell. Him and Cap wasn't having that conversation. So it wasn't like, yeah, we planning this sneak move on Massa House. No. Jay was padding his pockets. That's what he was doing. And he's not and let's be clear, G, the NFL is an engine, right?
Well,
and the kind of money that the NFL makes, Jay's not, I mean, you're not competing, right? So he's not a decision maker. He's not an equity owner. Jay couldn't buy one team, let alone dictate the league's movements. Let's be clear about that. That's also based in our aspiration and our illusions of understanding real wealth, right? And because we're so far down the totem pole, and because our aspirations are so high up the totem pole, we accept being leveraged as slaves instead of having an ownership mindset that will breed real capital.
We want the fastest
and real advancement.
We want the fastest way there. Not necessarily the most sustainable way, not necessarily the best long-term solution. We just want the fastest way there. And so if the fastest way there is to say, okay, y'all cut me a check for $50 million and I'll go do this dirty work for y'all, cool. As opposed to saying, nah, we'll build up our own capital and we'll start our own thing. And yeah, it'll be behind the NFL, but the moment we're able to get the best black athletes in that league will absolutely will overtake the NFL in, I would say, in a matter of 5 or 6 years.
So to the comments real quick, Nicole said we had our own bus services. She also, I wanted to go to something. She said I think the protest overwhelmed him. I think he was conflicted because he still wanted to play. Catrice says that man is trained and worked and sacrificed his entire life to be an elite athlete. Let him play. He shouldn't have to carry the burdens of a whole community on his back. Hell, we don't. Each shoulder, our share of the burden. I don't disagree at all.
Not at all. She's on point.
She absolutely has a point. But that point is going to absolutely lead to a cyclical understanding of oppression, right? Part of what we have to understand is that we're going to have to make some sacrifices. And we have to have community alignment. We have to have an aligned vision of what we want out of our community, not out of our aspirations to be included into America, right? So I think I said this last week. I had a conversation with somebody. Every culture in America has been created by black people. Everyone with the exception of one, right? We often say the original sin of America was slavery, but that's really not true. The original sin of America was capitalism. And that's the only culture that we didn't create. But we share off, sell off, negotiate off every culture we create to align ourselves into the one that they own. Right? So we the engine that makes capitalism possible. And we give up all of our shit to be counted next to the engine that we're creating the gas for.
I get that, and I'm in total alignment with that. Like that's the truth. But what I'm saying is, specifically about Jay-Z, is that I do believe in spook by the door and like getting a seat at that table and being able to make some changes. And all I'm saying is that I have seen in the short time he's been there, I've seen some things happen differently from the NFL that were not happening in its 100-year history before Jay-Z got a seat at the table.
That's why I think these dialogues are important, right? I count you as being a bright brother, but we see the world differently, right? So you just said innately that you see value in getting a seat at that table. And what I'm kind of saying is that the table don't have no value. We need to flip the fucking table over. Right, because the table,
that would be my first choice.
Right, the table is stagnant. The table gonna stay the table, right? But the table is designed a certain way, right? And it's that design of that table that keeps everybody fucked over. You know what I mean? So again, back to the LA shit. I was just in LA last week.
Wow. And hold on. I'm glad you brought that back up because Tua was in LA for a week. He comes back to Chicago
Oh,
with
yeah,
his khakis, his red flannel.
You see, what's that? Christian blood. Some blood
today. He come in here, Crip walking.
Yeah, come back.
He be out there 1 week. He come back flanneled up. He got his khakis on. Go ahead, man.
But I was just out there,
Mm-hmm.
and the homelessness population is outrageous.
Yeah.
It is outrageous.
Everybody
right?
go out there and there ain't enough resources. Well, it's enough, but it ain't getting spread nowhere.
It's outrageous. And I'm thinking about it in relation to Chicago, because if you're paying attention, you see the boom and rise in the homelessness population in Chicago, right? And what we're moving towards, and what we're moving into, capitalism is a winner-take-all kind of economy. That's just what it is. It's a winner-take-all economy. There's no value for the little motherfucker on the totem pole, right? And if we understand that design, and we understand our position in that design, right? Because our position, like we talk about this shit like we got a 400-year head start in the race.
Right.
That's kind of a misunderstanding. We the shoes in the race. We ain't in the race. We ain't in the race. Still to this day, right? So if you understand that, then you understand that they have no value for the shoe. The shoe can be replaced. You're not a competitor in the race. And we're being replaced as the shoe right now, today.
True.
Right? So when you think about the immigration conversation, God damn it, I was just in California.
That's
It ain't nothing but Mexicans in California.
That's it.
Black people don't even exist in that
That's
motherfucker.
it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you think about the menial jobs that we do hold, they're taking over those opportunities, right? And what's going to happen is the power source is going to get their new shoe. They're going to get their new shoe, right? And they're going to leverage a different argument, right? Our argument for their shoe at the time was, we savages, we not human,
Right.
right? So we can use this motherfucker however we want to use them,
Right.
right? Their argument for the Hispanics today is, well, they immigrants and they don't really have no value as citizens, so we can use this shoe any way we fucking want to use it,
Yeah.
right? But see, what they did was, the dynamic was, we came here, we outlasted as a shoe. We was one hell of a shoe. We was a Timberland boot with some running feet, right? And in that, we've created an argument, not even an argument, we are naturalized citizens of this country.
No doubt.
And as naturalized citizens of this country, now you motherfuckers owe us. And instead of paying what they owe, what they're trying to do is throw them fucking shoes away and get these new shoes. We got to rethink how we approach the conversation, all these conversations. But in order to do that, one, we got to understand our position, right? And two, we got to understand that we are the shoes.
Tiger said if they did build a new league, they wouldn't air their games.
So what happened now?
I was just reading Tiger's comment that says even if they did, start their own league, who would air their games, right? You still only got these few major networks. The football games come on CBS, they come on Fox, they come on NBC, NFL Network, whatever, ESPN. Who's gonna air the games? And I think that is going to be a slow process, right? But eventually, if they stick to the plan, if they build that league, if you get the best players in there, people will want to watch the best brand of football that they can. People are not going to watch a bunch of unathletic people go out there and play football, not after they've gotten used to seeing, Odell Beckham Jr. catch the ball with one hand going backwards and all these different guys. Like people are going to want to watch that. It's just, can the people who start the league, whether they are influencers like Magic Johnson, Jay-Z, Puff, whoever, that can build a group to start this other league, if they can get those elite players to make that sacrifice and say, okay, listen, I know you got $100 million on the table over here. We cannot give you that, right? We cannot. But we want to start this own league that's going to be beneficial for all of us for the long term, where your kids can play in the league, where they don't have to worry about people telling them what color shoes they can wear to the game. Can they wear earrings in the game? Can they stand or kneel like without being controlled like that? And I think that you would just have to have a clause in there, a grandfather clause in there, that grandfathers and all of these players who made that great sacrifice, to where they will always benefit financially from whatever that new black league does forever. And I think that you can get enough people that would be on board with that. Now, will everybody not? Because as you've been saying all day, capitalism supersedes the humanitarian, right? And so I think it'd be a struggle, but I think it is something that you can do. I think eventually people would would want to air those games on their network. The sister, I think,
I want to
Gardis.
There's a few comments. This Gardis is his brother, but he said
Oh, my bad.
homelessness in LA is due to inflated property in the city combined with the rising property taxes in that area. Chicago's homelessness will grow as well due to this formula. I agree. Going back to capitalism, right? 90% of the wealth in America is built through home ownership.
Yeah.
Right? And because we don't own and because we lack, and even when we do own, because we're so left out of the goddamn conversation in regards to wealth, the minute they raise them property taxes, like second generations can't even hold on to grandma's house when she dies.
Nah.
You can't even afford that.
Nah.
Right? So they got a stranglehold on us, but we live in these dream fantasy lives.
Or due to our lack of financial literacy, we take the home that's already been paid for once and refinance it and get that big ass check and blow it, and then a couple years later, that house that's been in our family for 40 years is no longer. And I think that's a very real conversation. I think we will start to see some of those things happening in Chicago as well.
I think this is an interesting comment right here, though. Jamila Jones says, I feel like there's so much division in what or how we should enact our activism, even within the small margins of people who actually want to do something, which is why so much of our community is stagnant and doesn't feel as aligned as other ethnic minorities. How do you feel about that?
We are definitely not as aligned as other ethnic minorities, but I think it really just goes back to our origins here in this country and how we came to be in this country that is so different from other ethnic groups, where they come over here by choice or whatever, and they still have their culture. They still are assimilated to their own individual and collective identity in terms of their community. And so as long as they still have that, then they can still move that way. Even once they ingratiate themselves into this capitalistic society, it's still with the idea of, who we are as a collective and not just this individual shit. How can we get our own space, our own plot of land here in this country and build that shit up on our own? Whereas us, because we didn't come over here with that, or because that collective identity has been stripped from us, we don't have that to harken back to in those times. And so it's always just this individual pursuit. And anytime you watch, I watch a lot of like National Geographic, and I like all the animal shows and hunting and all that shit. And all the whoever's hunting, be it the lion or whoever, all they want to do is create panic and get everybody doing their own thing and spewing their own way and going. And then it's easy for you to go snatch them up and pick them off. But if they're all together and they're all moving the same way and all on one accord, I don't give a fuck if you're the king of the jungle or not. You're not finna run up on them motherfuckers while they got their shit together like that. You got to try to create some hysteria, some panic, get everybody doing their own thing, and then you can pick their ass off. And it's the same way. Like, we don't have that collective identity. We don't have that collective, that singular objective that unifies us all in terms of how we move and what it is that we want ultimately. So while we're just individually pursuing our own things, it's easy to distract us with Shade Room, Breakfast Club. It's easy to throw us off our square and then pick our ass off.
I agree with you 100%, right? But in your animal analogy, you're talking about the responsive, right? The lion does this, and whoever they hunt responds in this way to scatter shit. But let's look at the proactive. The proactive is the lion. Pride moves in unison. Not just in the hunt, in every fucking thing.
Everything.
Right? This is how this pride is going to work.
We eat together, we sleep together.
Period.
We play together.
We're going to move as a unit, right?
Yeah.
Right, wrong, and different. We're moving as a unit. I can't think of the movie. It was a movie at the theaters, right? And I took my son to see it, and it was about a lion pride, a real lion pride, right? And one of the women in the pride got hurt during a hunt, and it followed her, and it showed how the lion pride accepted that this woman was dying, and she could no longer deal with the pride. Right. She couldn't keep up with the pride, right. And it was like it was almost like a communication level where the pride was like, yeah, we feel bad for you, but you can't fuck with us no more. But it was empathetic though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It was really interesting. But I agree with you wholeheartedly.
You aren't above the pride.
Right. And as the pride, in order for us to survive, we got to leave your ass here.
It's about the pride movement.
It's about the pride, not you. Right? So, but to that same point, it's a level of alignment and an idea. So I agree with you in regards to identity 100%. Right? But we say we don't have an identity. I think it's more like we don't accept our identity.
Same shit,
right?
bro.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with you there. But even in our hearkening back to, I often say, when Black History Month comes, when February comes, we always come out with this shit that our history didn't start as slavery. And I have huge problem with that, right? And my huge problem with that is it kind of defines what happened post-slavery as being valueless. And them motherfuckers post-slavery was the baddest motherfuckers to walk this planet. Ever.
As black people in this country, as American descendants of slavery, we come from the strongest people to ever walk the face of this earth. You don't survive being kidnapped, bought, sold, trade on the shores of West Africa. You don't survive the transatlantic, like you don't survive slavery, Jim Crow. You don't survive none of that shit, and get to where we are today without being the strongest motherfuckers ever.
And I also want to say this to Jameel's post, because I think it has a whole lot of validity, right? But I'm Gen X, right? You are a millennial, right?
Yeah.
We are the first generation post Jim Crow. We ain't had, this is pseudo freedom, right? So we're learning and moving. So when you see the disconnectivity, it's because motherfuckers is fighting for platforms and the information is changing and evolving because you learning new shit, right? So I'm not saying I'm right. What I'm saying, I said that last week. Don't look at me and say this choose the oracle. Fuck that. Take the information, harness that shit, engage with it for a little while, come back and debate it. Let's figure this shit out together.
It's a collective conversation.
It's a collective conversation.
Like, we have to find the best solution for all of us together. It ain't about, like, that's why we say what we say when we open the show every week. Like listen, this is about all of us having a conversation. It ain't about just me and you, just spraying our ideas as though they are, almighty over anybody else's. Like, we're just having the conversation so that we can get to the best solution possible, and you got to do that as a collective. You have to do it as a collective.
We're like a block off Harvard. She said soon Chicago will be San Francisco and Gary, Indiana will be Oakland. If you don't have any money, you're going to get the hell out this city. I agree.
And they just and speaking about that, who they just bring in here to be the police chief?
The Rodney King beating guy.
He was there on the scene.
Yeah, sitting on the goddamn car.
He's on the scene at the Rodney King beating, and then he presides over the LAPD as the chief of police in LA when they were the most murderous police department in the country. Right? I don't want to misquote this. I think 52 people were killed or died in custody in 2017 alone under his leadership as LAPD. And Black Lives Matter LA penned an open letter to black residents of Chicago saying, hey, be warned about what y'all getting. This dude is an absolute asshole, right? And then you get Mayor Lightfoot and exiting Superintendent Eddie Johnson saying, oh no, he's a good dude, he's a man of integrity, and he knows how to get things done. That was Lori Lightfoot's comment. He's a man who knows how to get things done. And what I took from that, it was, well, what is that you're trying to get done, right? You are trying to get black people out of this city, right? That has been the objective of the mayors in Chicago for quite some time. These plans have been in effect. She ain't coming in to change those fucking plans. She's coming in to advance them. And if you're going to do that, then you need a motherfucker who's already done that in LA, and you need a motherfucker who don't give a fuck.
Lori Lightfoot is interesting to me, man.
Yeah,
she's a case study in a lot of ways, right? She's a woman. She's gay. She came out of nowhere. She was the dark horse. She didn't come out of nowhere. She was around politics, Chicago politics, for a long time, quietly. But for her to win the election was jarring. Like you couldn't have bet on that.
Hell no, bro! You would have had $1 million.
You would have been outrageous
on that shit,
right? But that also goes into that conversation of you're the shoes and you're trying to replace the shoes.
Yeah.
So we oftentimes think of our struggle as a one-way street, not recognizing that the oppression that's being pushed on us is actively working against us daily, and it's growing, and it's engaging, and it's learning, and it's moving differently daily too.
Pause parenthetically because I'm gonna forget this.
Okay.
Catrice said we need monthly in-person meetings. We have been mulling that over and considering it for some time. We actually are going to start to do that, where we can get together in person and have these discussions together. We are eyeing a date in late December to have the first I Said What I Said live and in person, and so we'll continue to bring you all that information. If you all want us doing that, let us know. Just let us know so we can gauge you guys' interest and we can set it up. I'm talking about smoking a cigar. I don't know what you did with it. But we are going to do the first one at Legendary Cigars over on 51st and Wentworth. So
what day we said was that? December?
We was looking at December 27th was the day that we are currently eyeing right now. So please let us know if that would be something that y'all are interested in. We'd be happy to set it up. But again, only if y'all are interested in it. We don't need to just go meet and talk.
Look, Enreal said Beck is here to whoop ass and move niggas out.
That's it. That's it. That's it. And she come out and said it. Lightfoot, she's like, listen, he's a man that can get things done. Well, what is that you're trying to get done, man?
But I think, again, to the point,
and what is that he has done? His record says what he can do.
I think Lori Lightfoot is an interesting case study, right? But I think that there's no alternative to a Lori Lightfoot either, right? I think most of the on the grounds or outside of throes of politics, even the activists like the sister mentioned earlier, right? I think we're in this space where everyone is being co-opted. And it's easy to co-opt them because all it takes is a little cash, right? I've had some movements in this city, and I've told you personal conversations where they drop
I know
huge bags of cash in front of me, and it's not just because they, hey, I want to help you. That's not real. You know what I'm saying? So I know a lot of these other people who've kind of shook the bar and made a little wave. I'm sure huge bags of cash got dropped in front of them too.
Yeah, and then we start to see them.
But you see,
flexing about this,
but they elevate though. They elevate because back to the aspirational view that we have. Right? So now that this guy's getting television mentions, you validate him even more. Now that this guy's he's getting in front of different microphones, you validate him even more. And reality, he's already sold you.
So
he's already sold you.
By the time you hear about it,
so what you're leveraging to keep the politicians in line, he's already in alignment with them.
So what?
Right? So we gotta take politics serious, right? We gotta take life serious. Right, and it has to become a vocation. Education has to become a vocation. So you can see through that kind of a bullshit, right? So, but to the Lori Lightfoot thing, and this goes a little deeper, and part of why she's interesting and entertaining to me is that she shakes shit up. Though. You can't take that away from her. She shakes shit up.
There's
right?
no doubt about it.
The other day in the press conference, she mentions that she knew of a group of pastors that Uber gave $54 million to kind of act
lobby on their behalf
in regards to the rideshare tax, right? Now I use the rideshare systems a lot because I go downtown. I don't want to pay for parking, so I don't want to pay no extra tax on that shit. I ain't gonna lie, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that she even outed those black pastors like that. But the black pastors, though, what they represent to me is the same thing Jay-Z represents to me. It's the same thing that Al Sharpton represents to me. Here you are selling God. And being a leader of your flock, and you're selling your flock to the highest bidder as well. And that goes back to that table where everybody wants to sit at that table. That's the fucking table. The table is the goddamn cancer. We can't sit at the table. We got to kick the fucking table over. The table is undefeated.
Yeah,
the minute you get there, you fall in line with the cancer. You just metastasize.
Ideally, my first choice would be to flip the table over. That's the NFL table, that's the Jay-Z, all that shit. My first option would be to flip it over. I want to flip the whole country over. You know I'm always saying, like, I need the whole shit to come crashing down. And so when you said earlier, talking about the media shit, how that could be the first step into really rendering a lot of these old bills and amendments irrelevant, then I think that's fucking dope, right? And I think that I've been saying since 2016 that I think Trump is the right person at the right time to bring this shit crashing down. And in a lot of ways, he's started to put some things in place that would bring a lot of this shit crashing down. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be a pretty thing. I'm not saying it's going to look good for anybody, especially not for us. But, I mean, it's been fucked up for us for a long time. So let's just go ahead and let's rip this scab off and get this shit over with, fam. Like, that's just
it's getting more fucked up, though, cuz. It's going to get more fucked up.
Okay, sometimes things gotta get worse before they get better, but how much fucking worse could it get, bro? You look at the prison rates, you look at the state of our education system, you look at the justice system, you look at the housing market, the financial arena. How much worse could it get for black people in this fucking country? They're gonna put us back in slavery. We don't got no fucking money.
It get way worse, right? Because you remove the illusion, which removes hope, right? So all you gotta do is look around the world. Venezuela.
The illusion is the problem.
Wait a minute though. You look around the world right now, currently. Motherfuckers is riding in the streets because they don't have bread.
Yeah.
Right? And when I say bread, I mean money. I mean
literal bread.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, but I think in a lot of ways, that becomes the sacrifice. We're going to have to accept some level of sacrifice because it's going to be imposed on us anyway, right? So it would be smarter to be proactive, right? So just looking at the way America works and the way capitalism is on this hyper trajectory, right? We get this concept that this is what makes America America. The middle class is what makes America America, right? There's all other places have a very uber wealthy class and an uber poor class. The only shit that's different here is that there's a motherfucking middle ground. Mm-hmm. If you pay attention to the financial markets, right? The GDP is up, right? Motherfuckers here is getting bread.
Yes.
Right? But there's a whole other community of motherfuckers who's falling down. Suicide's up, right? Disease up. This is shit you can track. Data that's real right now.
Birth mortality,
right? Homelessness up. All these negatives are rising at the same time the GDP is rising. We're just moving into a space that the rest of the world already occupies. So when you look at a Venezuela, when you look at a Haiti, this ain't that. This ain't looking over like we used to look over 40 years ago, like that's fucked up. That's gonna be your reality. And you'll be a fool to not be proactive in stopping that reality.
I think it is the great philosopher Chris Rock who said that the upper class is there to, serve themselves and push their agenda. They have the middle class in place to be their worker bees and keep their systems going. And the lower class is there merely to scare the shit out of the middle class. To say, hey, I don't want to be here.
I don't want to be
here.
I
don't want to be here. So whatever I got to do to stay here, I'll align myself, whatever I need to align myself with to stay here in this middle comfortable class because I don't want to be down there. And I think that's a real thing. A lot of dope ass comments. Y'all really coming with some dope shit. I read some. Can you scroll up just a little bit? Maybe like 3 more comments. I think that was the first one. Okay, right there. It's cool actually. Jamila said I voted for her. She felt different. Yeah, she was different, right? She's different as hell, right? She's black. She's a woman. She's gay. She's, you know what I'm saying? Like
real fucking different.
She's different. She's different.
But does different mean better? And maybe better isn't even the right word. Does different serve us?
Does it mean some significant change?
Because that's the reality. We need to be serving our interests.
Yeah.
Does different serve us?
Who knows, right? Change is you needed to change if you wanted to improve, right? But change don't necessarily mean improve. It just means different. And so who knows? It remains to be seen.
And is she different at all?
Also true.
Yeah, that's what I'm
also
saying.
True. All she did was cater to her base and win.
Is she politically different or is she socially different?
She's socially. She's look a little different.
She look different.
She's move a little.
Politically.
She's pretty much.
She's
This is my base. These are people got me. I'm gonna serve them. I don't disagree.
Yeah,
I'm not one of them. Whatever. And then Catrice says, "I think Trump needs to stay where he is until his term ends." I think the man is.
I don't think his term ends, and I don't even mean in regards to re-election. I think this is the pinnacle. I think it's gonna be some fuck y'all, make me leave. And if you fuck y'all make me leave becomes the motherfucking impetus for Brexit is the separation of state versus federal.
Let that shit come crashing down. But that's what I've been on. But to Q's point, and peace King, what's up, Mark? Once the table is flipped, what prevents another from being built by those who flip the other table? It seems as if there will always be a table. Therein lies that's where the rubber meets the road for me, right? We can talk about bringing some system crashing down and flipping over some table, but then we have to be prepared and able to step into that space and build a new system, build a new table. And if we aren't in that space to be able to do that, then what could ultimately happen is they build a stronger, more formidable table that is not so easy to be flipped the fuck over. And
Who was the day though, right? So I'm just reading Q's point, like point by point.
Sure.
He says, once the table is flipped, what prevents another table from being built by those who flipped the other table? Now, those is important, right?
Is that us?
So this is
them flipping their own shit.
This is the dichotomy of being two sides, right? On one hand, I have a very humanistic, humanitarian view of life. I don't really want to see nobody fucked up.
What's the other two?
But the other hand, it's like, if it's you or me, it's going to be you, motherfucker. That's just reality, right? There's a power dynamic at play here.
Always.
And if it means it's going to be you and your children versus me and mine, motherfucker, you should be worried.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And I think we have this equality view of the world. That ain't real. Power is power. And there is an attachment to violence in the obtaining of power. There's an attachment of risk in the obtaining of power.
Oh,
ain't nobody giving that shit up.
Nah.
Right? And if we're not willing to risk it all, right, we just gonna suffer the consequences anyway.
You want to die slow or you want to die quick?
Which one you gonna choose, man?
You want to live on your knees,
man,
or you want to die on your feet?
Man, I want to burn out. I don't want to just
You know what I'm
simmer
saying?
down.
You
I
know
want
what
to
I'm
burn me out,
Let's
man.
go, fam.
Let's go out as a flame.
Let's go, fam.
Burn me out.
So I'm going out like Cleo and set it off.
To answer Q's question, I don't think you avoid another table being built. I think you just want to be the motherfucker building the table. It's just human nature. Mm-hmm. It's a power dynamic in everything, right? I told you I'm writing a book called "Can You Beat My Ass?" Though a fundamental understanding of masculinity. It is about power. Ain't no other way around that shit. It's about power.
That's it.
So we got a bunch of other tables. I mean, a bunch of other conversations, questions, and comments.
It can get so much more dangerous for black people in this country. Is it going to come to a purge?
It could possibly.
That'll be the wildest shit ever. That'll be the wildest shit ever. But you know what will happen though? Black people will fucking unite. Black people will get their ass together and huddle up in whatever corners of this country that we have, and we'll get our shit together. And all of the guns and shit that we use to kill each other, we'll aim them at the right targets for a change.
So,
or we'll go the fuck out. But either way, we're going out.
Guard has asked the question, and he says, "How do you flip the table?" White people have the table protected where not anybody can just walk up to it and take the seat.
It's a fact.
How do you get close enough to flip the table?
Look, spoke by the door. This is the infiltration. This is double back dressed in blue laces.
This is just
shout out.
This is just dialogue and conversation, right? Because if I said I had a definitive answer, I'd be lying, right? But again, capitalism thrives on the ideal of considering the alternatives, right? So you do all the shit capitalism demands of you doing because you're afraid of whatever the consequences are. That's just what the fuck it is. Mm-hmm. So fear is the personal prison. Period. This is why I talk about spirituality all the time. Like we gotta come to a place of spiritual understanding. If you let go of that motherfucking fear, like I also say fear and love can't harness the same environment, right? Mm-hmm. You let go of that fear and operate in the space of love, what the fuck do it matter? Right? Because at that point, you ain't afraid of shit. Right? That's the motherfuckers who gets on them planes with them goddamn with them box cutters. Okay. You can't stop me. Because I ain't got no fear.
I came here to go out.
I came here knowing I'm dying. You can't fucking stop me because I don't have no fear. We got to raise and engage a warrior class of human beings. And that could mean a plethora of things. It don't necessarily mean I got to go to war. But it does have to mean I'm not afraid of the consequences of failing to assimilate into this capitalist environment.
It's that OG Bobby Johnson spirit when he got out and went back to the Deuce Hood and found Ray Ray and said, "Look, I came here to get my son. I'm prepared to die for him today because I love him that much. Do you love him that much?" And Ray was like, "I can take this little nigga.
Yeah, I don't want that smoke."
You know what I'm saying? Like, nah. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's the type of gumption that it is going to take.
So,
what did M say? M said something just before.
I don't know, but I'll go back. Cal said, "This is why the Byron Allen case is important. If he loses, black people would have to depend on each other for resources. We need to build each other up now instead of being forced to do it. We've been forced to do it since 1816.
I don't think 16, so.
19.
I don't think so.
Well, is this what you're looking about with Henry?
Nah. It was right over that last comment you said. I don't know.
That's the one.
Maybe it was down. My bad. M said something that I wanted to read.
Tree says, if you look at life for serving black folks, hell no. No one cares about our interests. If one of us is going to tell the story, it's damn well going to be me. I don't know if that's in context to this. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to deal with that right now. Mm-hmm.
We are like children in many ways in our approach to politics or just reality.
That's real shit. I agree. And we got to grow up. We got to become adults and get out of our parents' house. You know, we got to make our own fucking rules. Think about that. That's a great analogy, right? So, my first little car, my first little crib was a downgrade from everything that I had access to in my parents' house.
Of course.
right? In a major fucking way, right? What the food in this refrigerator 90% of the time. You understand what I'm saying?
Of course.
But the freedom of being able to make the decisions I want in my shit is
Invaluable.
life changing.
It's invaluable.
You understand what I'm saying? I ain't had none of the amenities that I had at 94.7.
It's invaluable.
It's invaluable. And then lies the sacrifice of getting about your daddy's house. Right? Sometimes you gotta let them amenities go to really embrace what it really feels like to be in control.
My wife got me this pen that I got on. It just says free and it's got a black fist on it. And when she gave it to me, she was like, "Hey, I saw this when I was traveling. Thought about you." She's like, "I think you are one of the freest people I know. Like you just move in a way that you want to move." And I'm very proud of that. Like I do what I want to do, right? And I'm not extremely wealthy. I'm cool. I'm good. But like I don't got no fucking, you know what I'm saying? But what I do have is the freedom and the ability to do what I want to do every fucking day. And that's invaluable to me. That is invaluable to me. And I think that if we can let go of those aspirations of capitalism and find the intrinsic value in the freedom of doing what you want to do and living in love, find yourself happier than you could ever fucking imagine.
That's real shit.
Like in a way that people with a whole lot of money, a lot of them ain't fucking happy.
I don't think they can find happiness, right? Because the definitive, most people who thrive and strive to get a whole lot of money, and I get it. I'm part of this goddamn system, right?
Sure,
I'm forced to play the game, right?
Oh, this is
but
America.
part of how America works is that it keeps you unhappy, so you keep spending money. So what happens is you think you can buy your way to that happy feeling. You can buy your way to that freedom, and then you can't. You trying to fix an internal problem with an external solution. It don't work that way. You find happiness internally. You find it internally. The first revolution is always the revolution of the mind. Period. Just getting back to some of these other comments, Jamila Jones said, "All of us are here, I hope, because we believe whether the table is flipped or we build a new table or repurpose an old one, our collective organizations around a progressive goal coupled with focused individual actions can actually do something."
Absolutely.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if all of us are here
You
with
have
that
to
same
believe
agenda.
that. You have to believe that. There's no way you do what you do on a daily basis, whether it's here on I Said What I Said, around the city, around the country, or wherever the fuck. There's
I
no
got
way
hope. I don't think all of us here are for that purpose.
here, not here in the country. All of us.
Somebody thought that when Al Sharpton was sitting at their table.
All of us that are here having
Somebody
this
thought
conversation.
Al Sharpton sat at a lot of these tables. He sat at a lot of these tables. Tables with motherfuckers that was much more intricate in these conversations than either of us. And I don't know. I don't know if that's real. But I get the sentiment for sure.
Yeah.
Talking about your wife, Shanita says, yes, we can raise warriors if we're intentional about educating the next generation. Absolutely.
Got to be intentional about it. You gotta meet them early. You gotta identify the ones who have the ability and the interest to do those things, and then you have to kind of harness that energy and train them up that way, so that that's how they'll move, and they won't just be about the next dollar, but they'll be about the next step forward in the fight for our liberation.
Mike Brownsville says these parents ain't letting you move out. We gotta kick the door down, G. Fuck that.
Let me out, man.
Getting out of daddy's house is equivalent to getting out of America, going back to Africa and creating a system of wealth and prosperity for our people worldwide. This I absolutely disagree with. And I say that in this sense, right?
Getting out of daddy's house is equivalent to getting out of America, going back to Africa. Oh shit.
I say that in this sense, right? We built America, right? We got as much claim to this shit as anybody else.
Yes.
Right? So in that vein, and I ain't knocking, I fully get that connectivity to Africa and the African understanding. But if I'm being real, right, and we got this idealistic view of Africa as well.
I'm from Africa. I'm from Crenshaw Mafia.
Listen. We laughing at that shit, but
I'm dead ass.
That's how we connect to America. We don't connect to America on a large scale, but we do connect to Chicago. We connect to the South Side. The dude in Detroit is gonna connect to Detroit and the East Side of Detroit. You know what I'm saying? We still tribal, right?
Indeed.
But I think we had this idealist, euphoric view of Africa. Africa's a continent. right?
Big as fuck.
And in those countries, there's not no collective view of what it means. Your motherfuckers don't call themselves Africans when they're on the continent.
South Africa white as fuck.
But I'm saying even black Africans, when they're on the continent, they don't relate to the whole of Africa.
I'm from Senegal. I'm from Mali.
And they don't even relate to the whole of it's tribal.
That's true.
Right? So that shit, that's part of our psyche too. That's part of our dynamic, right? We got the same shit. That's why we folks and Moes and Crips and Bloods and all that shit is a passing on of the lineages of just being African in the diaspora.
7-4.
Period, right? But I think that I'd be damned if my people struggled and built this land on the shoes of white folks and I just say y'all can have it.
Okay, we out.
We out. And then do that shit all over in someone else's land because it's the same power dynamic is going to exist. Mm-hmm. You still got to establish your brand of power wherever you go.
Yeah, and I think...
Or you're going to be subjugated to whatever the rule is there.
Listen, and this ain't an anti-African thing, right? If the conversation was, hey, this is set up better for us here, then maybe we should all consider going here. What gets me on that argument is this idea of going back to Africa as though we, in our current existence as we are, have been there. Like that ain't going back. Like that's just going somewhere to build something else. If you say that's a better place and here's the things we got in place to do it, I'll hear that argument. I'll consider that move. But to say go back just for the sake of going back, when the people who come, let me be clear. A lot of people who come over here from Africa don't fuck with black people. Mm-hmm. Like some do, a lot of them don't. Mm-hmm. And so to think that we gonna go back to Africa and just be accepted with open arms is
Catrice says something. She says white supremacy must be eradicated all over this planet. Period. And I agree. And this is kind of why I make the statement. And I said that black people post-slavery, right? Them people post-slavery is the most amazing motherfuckers that this planet has ever seen.
No doubt,
right? In a lot of ways, man, we are the purveyors of culture, university. Right, whatever, and we a small percent of the American population. Mm-hmm. So you think about that in regards to the world population, we a blip on the fucking map. But our blip on the fucking map is the frequency that dictates the energy across the fucking globe. Whatever culture we create, it usually stems up out of our mood music, which it kind of changes the culture of the moment. Mm-hmm. It infects the world like a virus. Yeah. Right? We do that shit. Not knocking no Africans, but they don't do that shit. They don't do that shit.
It's true.
Right? We do that shit. Not knocking no Hispanics, but they don't do that shit.
Peace, Nicole.
We do that shit. We are amazing. All we gotta do is harness that power. When we talking about music, but I often say, when you look at the civil rights movement, right? It is that strategy, it is that frequency that has leveraged every other movement across the globe since that moment. So it's not just our ability to entertain, it's really our connectivity to the energies that came before us. If we are and it's some spiritual shit, mm-hmm. If we are the sum total of all that came before us, right? The two most aggressive energies on this planet, love, mm-hmm. hate, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. If we're looking at it from where do these energies arise from, love, Africa. Why? It's scientific, right? Africa's next to the fucking equator. Everything is in abundance. Mm-hmm. Everything grows in abundance. Mm-hmm. Africa is still the wealthiest continent, mm-hmm. right?
It's more food,
natural resources in Africa than anywhere
we can actually use. So right. I don't got that.
Because it's a system of abundance. I can love you.
Yeah.
My whole value becomes my relationships with my people. Yeah. Because I'm not harnessing shit.
Too.
Yeah, it's enough for everybody, right? That other energy, hate. Right? If the Caucasoid Mountains was where the white man arrived from, he brought the energy to the planet, right? Mm-hmm. There's scarcity there. Mm-hmm. It's an idea of scarcity. Mm-hmm. And because of that idea of scarcity, I'll fuck you up over this apple.
If it's 100 apples right here, go ahead and get your 50, bro. We good.
But if it's one, I'm gonna fuck you up. It's just what it is, right? But look, but we don't get me without both of those energies.
Sure.
We will legitimately have that balance of that yin and the yang that empowers us to have a different frequency than the rest of the fucking planet. We just gotta harness it. We just gotta harness it.
So read through a few more comments, but then let's bend back and kind of put a bow on all these topics for the day and get ready to wrap up. I need to call in. I can't type fast enough. You're always welcome to call in, Jamila. So the things that we talked about, mass media, talked about Lakeith Stansfield coming out, taking his stance against black media outlets such as the Shade Room and the Breakfast Club, saying that they are anti-black for the content that they put out, the images that they portray of black people. You and I both wholeheartedly agree. And of course, when you say something like that, people's first reaction is defensive. Don't say that we black people, this is our show. That's fine. But what he's saying is absolutely true. And so, but to me, that becomes a question of who's most at fault. Is the person putting out those messages, or is the masses of people who are digesting those messages, who are tuned into that frequency? We also talked about the Comcast situation. We didn't actually say why you think we're gonna lose the fight. Why we're gonna lose this case?
Because I don't think it's about Republican or Democrat, and I don't think it's about Comcast. I think it's about white supremacy and maintaining it, right? So when you can, and the courts being their last stand, right? So if the courts is their last stand, and you can now freely discriminate because you can't prove otherwise,
sure,
against anything you want to.
Right.
We have this false sense of we've been accepted into the country. We're not. So just to make that true, right? When you think about the public sector of America and the jobs that are there, the public sector of America, we don't exist there. We're like less than 3% of hirees in the public sector. So you think of a Facebook, and you wanted to talk about that earlier, but you think of a Facebook, we don't work in that motherfucker. You think of a Google, we don't work in that motherfucker. You think of a Uber, we drive the cars, but we don't work in that motherfucker. So in the private sector, we don't make no money. The only places that our communities make money is in government sectors. And then we talk about government like that shit don't matter. Motherfucker.
Without it,
you don't exist, homie.
Our mail carriers,
right?
our police
mail
officers,
carriers, bus drivers. That's where we build our communities, right? So if you can get up out of that conversation and say we can discriminate because of just how the fuck we feel, the private sector is able to kind of do that freely, right? Because they can create their own standards. But if you make that a law, what the fuck you think happens?
This week, just real briefly, a group of black employees at Facebook anonymously penned an open letter calling out Facebook for its discriminatory practices against black people within the company. And they were anonymous, but it was a group of, I think it was 12 of them who got together to do this. And listen, we know that Facebook discriminates. Like, we know when we get too deep in a certain topic, they be like, nigga, not on our platform.
Cut that feed.
You know what I'm saying? So we understand that, but again, it's about, are we willing to sacrifice our comforts, our use of Instagram and Facebook to say, okay, let's build our own. We got enough fucking intelligent people to build our own. Hell, black dude, African dude, design the algorithm for Instagram any fucking way. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have the ability to do that, but it's, do we have the patience and the discipline, and are we willing to sacrifice long enough to see those things through? And it don't matter if we're talking about building a new sports league or a new social media app or whatever. Do we have the patience, the discipline, and are we willing to sacrifice? Because it's going to take a whole generation of fucking sacrifice to do this, to do all these things.
It's going to take more than the whole generation.
I don't think so.
And I think, no, it does. And I say it in a sense, because the conversation is always power. And that's never ending.
That's true.
You never stop. That's what this shit is. That's what it's a continual fight, right? So we look at the 60s and say, well, they did X, Y, Z, and that's kind of the problem.
And then
we
what
think
happened?
that shit was successful, and we just kind of let our foot off the gas.
That's that illusion that you mentioned earlier.
That's
and I was like,
that's
the illusion is
the
the problem.
falsity. That's the falsehood.
Yeah.
You know, motherfucker, keep going.
Keep going.
You gotta keep.
You have
going.
to keep your foot on that neck, fam.
You got to keep going.
Like,
the gas. You don't ride the brake. You ride the gas.
I love them. That's what I like about those UFC fights, bro. Like, when they hit somebody and they fall, they rush them and pound their face into the mat until the referee literally has to come and push them off. Like no, stop, fam. He's not moving anymore. Like, you have to be able to finish that. You got to see it all the way the fuck through. Any last opportunities you want to apologize to Hov?
No, fuck off.
Because
Fuck Hov as
Y'all-
a political staple.
Y'all,
Hov's music is still Hov's music. I respect that part.
You and a lot of our I Said What I Said family jumped all down my throat when I was like,
Hov is a goofy.
when I was like,
He's a dumb.
this could be a good thing. I don't know that it's a good thing,
not a good
but
thing.
I wasn't willing to say it was a bad thing
It's not
then.
a good thing.
And now I'm starting to see some shit from it.
Hov is an amazing artist. He's an amazing capitalist. He's just not somebody I'm looking to for political view. I don't give a shit what Hov has to say in any of those arenas. I don't give a fuck what Charlamagne has to say in any of
That's
those arenas.
fine. That's fine.
He
But
did
I'm
not
saying
work in any capacity to help Kaepernick.
How the fuck you
Let's
know
stop that lie right
How
now.
do you know that?
We know that because Kaepernick says it. In none of the conversations that he mentioned that he was meeting with Roger Goodell the whole time he was sitting with Kaepernick. So we know that. That's factual.
Spoke by the door. This infiltration.
The door my nuts. Even if I'm sitting with you.
No, I can't tell you everything, bro.
Man, get the fuck out of
I
here.
can't tell you what the move is, bro.
That's that Black Messiah complex. You need
I'm
a guy.
that.
That's why he calls himself Ho, because y'all need a guy. Y'all need a guy. Y'all need a guy. Ho's a clown. He's a clown. Ryan Lamar, he's screaming Hova. Kyle says all gas, no brakes. He says Jay's not pushing any social justice moves at all. I agree. You know, like I said, I can be a fan of the music, but the dude is not. He's not with us.
All I'm saying
in that regard.
Is it pause? All I'm saying is that I said I would give him the benefit of the doubt and give him time to see what he wanted to do and what are some of the things he's going to implement. And in a short amount of time, I've seen more exposure for black artists.
Anything.
But I've already seen it, bro. You saw Meek Mill open up the 100-year and kickoff celebration for the National Football League. They told you it would have been fucking Bon Jovi in any other year. It would not have been no fucking young ass rapper from Philadelphia. That's not gonna happen without Jay being in that room. Jadakiss is not going to be rapping on all of the NFL commercials without Jay being in the room. That money
validates a black consumer base.
I understand the purpose why they got him there, but once you get that seat, there's still some availability to have some things come down that otherwise would not. And I'm starting to see some of those things. And I'm going to include Colin Kaepernick's workout in Atlanta tomorrow for those NFL teams.
You
in that group of
bought into the loop.
Then what's the reason to bring them back?
You've been compromised, and I'm not sure if you're the spook that needs to be sitting at the door anymore.
I'm not the spook. I'm saying Jay's the spook.
You've been compromised.
I'm too. I said
the
what I
fact
said.
that you
to
even believe that bullshit speaks to me. This says that you've been compromised.
No,
you're a sellout.
Cone ass.
That's all to it. You've been compromised.
Hey y'all, we are about done with this week's edition of I Said What I Said. Thank y'all so very, very much for tuning in. Thank y'all so much for all of y'all input. Again, it is a collective conversation. It's not just about all the shit I got to say that's right and all the shit that you got to say that's wrong. It's about all of us getting together and finding these solutions. So we greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, leave some messages in the inbox, something if you guys would be interested in meeting up monthly. I know Catrice mentioned that. It's something that we've been thinking about. We are eyeing a date in late December, I think December 27th, for having the first one so where we can actually meet up and do this thing in person and start to, put together some things that could be more action oriented behind the conversations that we have. It is extremely valuable and we greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate y'all. Please share it. Bring as many people into the conversation as possible. The more people that we have in this conversation, the more likely we are to get to some solutions and then have the manpower to be able to carry out some actions into the community. So please take the time to share it, spread it however you can. Just let somebody know about it. We greatly
share, like, comment.
Share, like, comment, all that shit. We greatly, greatly appreciate it, man. Any last comments before we sign off?
Yeah, Herb's a coon. Other than that, man, we always appreciate y'all rocking with us. And we out!
Peace.
All right, y'all, peace.